Now I know this isn't the usual gaming video, but I've had a conversation with somebody about this, and I just want the proper information to be out there about it. This is what the dodo is really like. That we know of. Dodos were found on the island of Mauritius, which they were native to. That's to the east of Madagascar in the Indian Ocean, which itself is in a cluster of islands called the Mascarene Islands. The dodo was only found on this specific one, which is pretty cool because I like it when islands have isolated ecosystems. Like, the diversity on them is crazy. Anyway, dodos would have stood about 62 to 75 centimeters, about 2.5 feet to 2.46 feet for Americans, and might have weighed around 10 to 17.5 kilos, which is 23 to 39 pounds, and were usually depicted with bluish-greyish plumage with yellow little feetsies. Now, we don't actually know what the full colour of a dodo would be, but I mean, if we're going off pigeons, it could be pretty much anything. Contrary to popular belief, dodos probably wouldn't at all look like they're depicted in modern media. Rather than being the dumb little idiots with bad posture and fat bodies they're portrayed as, instead they might have been, smarter with a more upright posture, almost similar to, like, if you imagine a crane, but still just a bit fatter. Dodos are related to pigeons, but their closest alive relative was Rodriguez solitaire, which is now extinct, just like them. But the actual closest living relative would be the Nicobar pigeon, which is near threatened, by the way. And the difference between them is drastic, because, like, you've got dodo, which is kind of, it's depicted as being a bit drab, like, just regular city pigeon, but without the iridescent bits. And the Nicobar pigeon is, like, big fancy. It's got ribbons and stuff. It looks really cool. But I mean, that's kind of what you get when your actual closest previously living relative went extinct. Speaking of extinct, the dodo itself went extinct in the 17th century around 1681 due to overhunting, invasive pests, and being too nice for its own good. Like, if you grew up on an island without natural predators, you'd look at these tall, hairless apes that just appeared from the ocean. You'd go, what are those guys up to? I better investigate. And then get unceremoniously stabbed with a sword and cooked over an open flame. It was the Dutch, the British, and of course everybody's favorite group of bandits, the British. They introduced pets like rats and monkeys to the island, which ate their eggs, food, and other stuff I can't be bothered looking up right now. That's not even mentioning the people themselves, who slaughtered and butchered them until no more left, like, anywhere. But we don't actually know what the call of the dodo sounded like, but it was described by sailors and seafarers as sort of doo-doo kind of call, hence the name dodo. I've always thought the dodo's call sounded like its living cousins, the pigeons, so I've always thought of it more as a lower-pitched pigeon call, if you can imagine that. Kind of like a mourning dove, but lower-pitched and dragged out a bit longer, because I've personally noticed that in birds, the generally bigger they are, the lower-pitched their voices are, kind of thing. There's actually a pretty good David Attenborough clip I saw from a documentary a while back in a museum that had it on exhibition, actually. It describes what dodos may have looked like a bit better than I can. Also, it's David Attenborough. He's just pretty neat.
This poor old bird is a dodo. It once lived on the island of Mauritius in the Indian Ocean, and it's almost certainly the first animal species that human beings actually exterminated in historic times. And so now we talk about being as dead as a dodo. But in spite of its fame, this one is a fake. Its feathers come from a goose, its feet were modelled on a turkey, and its beak, I suspect, is plaster.
The museum can be forgiven because no skin or feathers of the dodo survive. Its image was influenced by pictures like this one, painted by a 17th century Dutch artist, Roland Savory. But he had never seen a living dodo and based his image on accounts by seafarers.
I've often wondered whether dodos actually look like that. But unfortunately, they'd all disappeared before anyone could get a good look at them. Until now.
This funny, dumpy creature is how the bird is usually represented these days. But I've seen quite a lot of flightless birds over the years, and this one doesn't quite ring true. An examination of the way its thighs join its pelvis has shown that in life it actually stood much more upright. We now know that its feathers were probably a lot fluffier than in that painting. We also now know that it was related to the pigeon, and some experts suggest that it made a pigeon-like call, doo-doo, doo-doo, which gave the bird its name.
The dodo probably fed on fruit. There was a lot of it on the island. I'll try him with a bit. Come on. What do you make of that? Oh! That's a very powerful beak. In fact, it may well have been adapted for crushing shells and crustaceans for the sake of the calcium.
And there's a female. Maybe she is another reason why they had such large beaks to show off with during courtship.
Yeah, so, really, that's pretty much all I wanted to say about dodos. Just kind of rant about something I'm passionate about, the extinct animals and stuff. So, until next time, remember to like and subscribe and all that jazz. So, I'll see you in the next one.